Well, this monster I'm holding up right here is one of our late fall harvests from the vegetable garden, and it's one of my favorite vegetables. This is Jerusalem Artichoke, and actually it's a member of the sunflower family, and it's one of the few native vegetables that we find growing in North America. And you might see relatives of it growing along the roadside, and you'll find that it doesn't form the typical sunflower seed of large size that we use for feeding birds, but it probably does provide some wildflower food. And it has beautiful bright yellow flowers that we were enjoying earlier this fall. They grow in large clusters on top of the plant. They're only about 3 inches across, but in mass they're very beautiful. The Jerusalem artichoke does get very, very large. It can be a perennial in the garden if you don't dig all of it up and replant it each year, so that it could get out of hand. But let's take a look at how we harvest these. Usually you want to wait until after we've had a frost, because that sweetens up the flavor. And you want to wait till the soil's fairly dry. And we have pretty nice conditions right now for digging them. And the Jerusalem artichoke is not an artichoke, and it didn't come from Jerusalem. As I mentioned, it came from North America. And it will give you a big harvest of nice crunchy tubers that you can eat raw or cooked. Let's see if we can lift that whole thing up now. Okay, let's take a look at that. We just started off earlier in the summer with just one tuber planted here, and now it has multiplied into many of them that can be clipped off, because you don't want to tear them. Remember when we've talked about storing bulbs for the winter, you don't want to tear. So you can just clip those off and then rinse them off and store them. And I've got a few already picked that one of our Oklahoma gardening ambassadors got all cleaned up for us this morning, and I want to show you just how attractive they are. Now keep in mind that they can either be eaten raw in salads, or they can be cooked up like potatoes. But I just want to show you how they really are best, and that's if you cut into them and hear that nice crunch. They'll make a nice texture in salads, sort of like water chestnuts, but not quite so strongly flavored. And if you cook them or eat them raw, if you're diabetic, this is one vegetable that you can pretty well eat with impunity, because they don't convert directly into the sugars that could give diabetics problems in processing them through their bodies. If you want to grow Jerusalem artichokes and you need to know how to store them, they don't need to be kept cold and moist like you would carrots. They really should be stored just like Irish potatoes. In other words, they need to be kept dry and slightly cool, but certainly not chilled. If you want to grow some next year, you can get a start from a friend, or you can send off to a mail order catalog, or check your local nursery or garden center to see if they're going to carry them. If you can't find them, check with your county extension agent. We're providing them with a list of mail order sources of Jerusalem artichokes, and some of them have specific varieties that have certain colors and textures that you might not have otherwise considered. Well, consider growing our native vegetable of Jerusalem artichoke next year, and be sure to put it on your seed list.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. You can also find more recent videos on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.